Good evening viewers and welcome to the Flashpoint with Mariam Chaudhry. Today we are talking about countering terrorism with Sufism. They say Pakistan is a society facing an existential threat from extremism and radicalism. But that wasn't always the way it was. Once upon a time, South Asia was the hub of peace and harmony. They say mysticism and Sufism were ways of life over here. But can we turn back the clock and bring back those times? And can we use Sufism as a tool for bringing change back into society? Let's find out. Joining us today are Dr. Jamil Qalander, who's a rector with the National Peace Committee and who's the chairman of the Kul Foundation International. Dr. Jamil Qalander, thank you for joining us. As you heard in my intro, Mr. Qalander, we're facing so much radicalization in Pakistan. Terrorist incidents have increased vastly. And there was a time when nothing of that sort was happening. And people are saying that this is basically rooted in ideological causes. Would you agree with that?
Terrorism actually is the cause and also the result of certain conditions. And what are those conditions? Those conditions are external and internal. An external condition, they are what? We can explain them in terms of frustration. And frustration, as McDougall says, leads to aggression. And also terrorism results from a low level of education, orientation, low level of...
Dr. Qalander, you're very right in saying that it results from low levels of education and illiteracy and frustrations in society. Yes. But is Pakistan a special case study? Because we are seeing a great spike in terrorist incidents in this country. And that wasn't happening there 10 years ago, 20, 30 years ago. And people are talking about how this is a phenomena which is linked directly to the conflict in Afghanistan and the ideologies which have been imported due to that conflict.
Actually, after when Afghanistan was invaded by Soviet Union, in those days it was they needed that some kind of hardliner they should be developed and powered in order to counter the Soviet Union invasion. In those days when Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, and I was working with curriculum, there was a person, namely Yusuf Talal, a new American Muslim, Muslim. He studied all the syllabi in religious madaris, and to my surprise, he removed all those things of philosophical nature, psychological importance from Dars-e-Nizami. He deleted. And I asked why. Because he said that we are in need of focusing on countering the Soviet Union and countering Soviet invasion in Afghanistan. So we have to put forward hardliners. And in the presence of these books, I think we can't develop.
So most people would agree that was a formal process, and because people were needed to fight the Soviets with a lot of zeal and with a lot of vigor, hardliners were inducted. But now we need to reverse the process. So the question is, can Sufism take us back to where we were before all of this happened?
Sufism, from the very beginning, from the days of Prophet, has been a very effective tool of curing all kind of social and psychological diseases. So Sufism is a very relevant what we call remedy in our folklore culture. Sufism is a part of our integral part of our life. Just like Bulle Shah, Rahman Baba, and Latif, Baba Shah Abdul Latif, Lal Shabazz Qalander, Bari Imam, and the people, these shrines, they are often visited. There's a involvement, total involvement.
But a lot of the poor people go to the shrines. But they go and pray at the shrines, but they don't know what Sufism is actually about, because there is no institution and there is no structure which is telling or teaching people how to go along the path of Sufism. So where does one go for such learning?
Sufism is a learning and teaching which is direct and indirect. And Sufism focuses on both these ways. When a person goes to a shrine, And then he sees the environment, and of course man is influenced by by environment, because man is the product of environment. So when he sees off and on that environment, he is changed by the influence of certain factor present in that environment, that he undergoes a radical change. So each and every environment, of course, influences a person. So we have to take into consideration all those tacit influences generated by that environment around the shrine, which of course are more vocal, more explicit than the bookish knowledge which we receive in university, in colleges, in schools.
So, Dr. Qalander, they say that once upon a time South Asia was the hub of Sufism.
Yes.
That we had a lot of Sufi saints and that a lot of people were practitioners. It was actually quite common.
Yes.
So what happened? Why did that culture disappear?
There is an approach which is a phenomenological approach. When there was a dialectical materialism in vogue in all the world, so in parallel to that current, there was in the Islamic world, there was a movement which I would say introduced by Ibn Taymiyyah in the subcontinent, by Sheikh Ismail Shaheed, and Hijaz in Saudi Arabia by Abdul Wahab. These three, I would say, religious individual or personalities, they focus on the apparent, the visible, and then they denied each and everything invisible, esoteric, tacit, and behind the curtain. And they made a fallacy. What is that fallacy? They denied the existence of metaphysical probe into the ultimate nature of things. And they say that it is impossible to know the ultimate realities of things.
So if we make Sufism really simple for the layperson, how would you describe it? How would you say Sufism? What is Sufism for the average person?
Sufism is, of course, has two fundamental pillars or principles. One is that it is knowledge, and that knowledge is based on certain principles, certain well-defined principles. And it is also a practice. In order to make it my point more clear, I would say that Sufism is theory and practice. Theoretically, it is a science. It is a super science. I would say it is a transcendental science. Probing into the ultimate nature of things, ultimate nature of realities. As the prophets say, Rabbi arini haqaiq al-ashyai kama hiya. O people, show